Democrats in Olympia, they decided to, in a very sneaky roundabout way, start the process of banning natural gas. Like, hey, you're building a new home? Nope, it's got to be electrified. And eventually they're going to get to the point where they're going to allow PSE to cut off your natural gas, and then you'll be on the hook to the tune of like $40,000 on average to electrify your home. So Let's Go Washington stepped in. This was one of the initiatives they decided to run with a lot of help from the Building Industry Association of Washington. They went out, they collected enough signatures in like a month and a half, got it on the ballot for voters in November, and voters passed the initiative. Voters decided, no, I want energy choice. I want the ability to have natural gas in my home or in my business. And so immediately, when that happened, Governor Jay Inslee said, we're going to fight this in court. We think it's unconstitutional. He got a sweetheart judge in King County who he appointed. He went to court personally, Governor Inslee did, even though he wasn't governor at the time. This was like this year after he was out. He was out of office and he still went. And it was like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And a King County judge ruled that the initiative was unconstitutional. So, of course, Let's Go Washington, BIAW, they weren't going to sit there and do nothing about it. So this has now all been caught up in the courts. We asked Greg Lane, the executive vice president of the Building Industry Association of Washington, to come on the show today and update us. Greg Lane, welcome back to Undivided.
It's great to be with you again, Brandi. Good to see you.
I keep getting asked by viewers and listeners if we would give them an update on where the gas ban drama stands.
Yeah.
I think they're also tired of voting for things that they never get, or in this case, voting against something. So what's the status?
Yeah, I think that's actually I have members asking me all the time too, and it doesn't get a whole lot of attention, and the process now that the court process is drawn out so much, it doesn't get a whole lot of attention from the media. So I really appreciate you staying up on top of it for us. So we have filed, we did in late May 27th, for a direct review appeal to the state Supreme Court. This is an appeal of the ruling, if you remember, by the King County Superior Court Judge Sandra Woodland, that we had the hearing in front of her, which she ruled from the bench that the initiative was unconstitutional back on March 21st, and then lo and behold, she took 7 weeks almost to actually file the order, which we had to have in place in order to file the appeal to the Supreme Court. So it was, so they've been drawing this process out as long as possible, which is really frustrating. And it prevented us from being able to get in front of the Supreme Court before they take their summer recess, which happens in July and August. So now we're waiting to hear back from the Supreme Court as to when the hearing will be, but it's not going to be until the fall.
So you had a lot of concerns last time you came on after Judge Woodland made her initial ruling. One, your suspicions. I mean, Jay Inslee was in the room. He appointed her. It seemed like there was a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So, given that, do you think that that was an intentional delay?
I believe it was. It certainly was highly unusual. Typically, or final orders, especially when a judge does a ruling like she did, where she had 6 pages that she read. I mean, she'd written out the order. What she filed as the final order was really insignificantly different from what her oral ruling was from the bench. So to me, that's highly suspicious. We really, as we discussed before, did not feel like we got a fair and unbiased hearing in front of that judge who was appointed by Jay Inslee, and clearly, her ideology, I think, played a clear role in her decision, and I don't think she really listened to our arguments. She bought everything that the plaintiffs said, and also, she was aware that regardless of what she ruled, this case was going to end up at the Supreme Court. So, she really, I don't know, I think was pandering a bit to, her base, and certainly the governor who appointed her in this ruling, because she knew regardless of whatever the ruling was, it was going to get appealed, and it was almost kind of a free opportunity for her to rule however she wanted. And again, I just don't feel like we had a fair look at what those issues were being raised. I'm hopeful, and I really hope that we'll get a more fair and unbiased hearing when we get in front of the Supreme Court this fall.
Are you, though? I don't know. Maybe
I know.
Is that a little Pollyannish? Because when you look at people who got their seats because of Jay Inslee and all this, I mean, I don't really see a substantial difference ideologically on the state Supreme Court.
I do think ideologically, when you compare to the Superior Court in King County, it's it's a little further closer to the center. But you're right. I mean, the justices are still extremely liberal on this issue. However, they do, unlike the Superior Court, they will pay attention to precedent
Hmm.
much more closely, which our arguments rely on a great deal, the precedent of previous decisions on the court by the court. And so we feel like we certainly will have a better shot. I again going in, we know it's probably leaning against us, but we think we've got a pretty good shot, or at least a an equal shot at five or six of the justices. There's three or four that probably we don't have a chance to get, but we only need five. And so we're going to go in and make the arguments. And we have a number of our partners lined up to put in amicus briefs in supporting of our arguments. And so we're going to aggressively try and defend it. And we're working closely with the Attorney General's office, who is the lead defendant. And I know there's suspicions around that as well. But the attorney that we've been working with out of the Solicitor General's office and the AG's office has been aggressively defending the state law, the initiative, and working very closely with our outside counsel. So we've been pleased with their efforts.
So I guess for people watching, I mean, what's the status? Like, let's say you're thinking about building a new house. I mean,
Yeah.
would you tell them don't put gas in it? Don't have a gas
Well,
hookup? Or
that's the problem.
okay.
Right now, as of the King County ruling, House Bill 1589 and the energy codes for all new construction, commercial and residential, ban natural gas. So if you are building a new home or a new commercial structure, you are prohibited from using natural gas, or you are strongly penalized if you do choose to use natural gas, which was our argument for the reason why this was basically a natural gas ban on the energy codes, because it's so restrictive and so penalizing that there's no way that people would choose to do it. It's so cost prohibitive. So right now, as of now, the law is the current energy code bans natural gas, and 1589, which Initiative 2066 overturned. That was the bill passed by the legislature in 2024 that starts the banning of natural gas to existing customers. That law is now in place as well, which is, and again, getting to the point why the opponents, why those who want to ban natural gas are trying to push this process along as slow as possible so that the regulatory agencies that are supposed to implement those policies can start that process. And they are aggressively advocating to those agencies to start that process. We're trying to ask them hold off until we get a final ruling on the legality of the initiative before they move forward.
Yeah, what a mess. And people are so sick of this. We have this story on the show today. There's like 500,000 Washingtonians whose car tabs aren't up to date. And they're
Yep.
like, why is that?
Yep.
Why do you think it is?
Yes.
It's because they've asked for it a million times. You didn't give it to them, and now they're just over it. I don't think it's as easy for home builders to just say, we're not going to do
No.
that. You can't
No.
really do that, right? So it's so
We
frustrating.
cannot. Yeah.
So the earliest we'll have a decision again is when?
Well, the earliest that we'll have a hearing is September. We're hoping in September or by early October. And then it takes a few months for the court to actually issue an opinion. So,
Hmm.
that could be anywhere between 3 to 6 months. Sometimes this court's taken up to a year. I really hope and anticipate that they wouldn't take that long, but I would guess we probably won't have an actual ruling until the first part of 2026, over a year after
Wow.
the voters of the state passed the initiative. It's really frustrating that it takes that long to get through the process, but that's what we're expecting in terms of a timeline.
Yeah, just one thing quick, because we've seen the Trump administration came out and said, hey, we're
Yes.
going to intervene when there's policies that impact America's energy independence. And we saw what they
Yep.
did with the EV situation, which I think was positive, and it was bipartisan. Congress
Yes.
passed that on a bipartisan basis. So is this something that the president could intervene in?
This is absolutely. So there are a couple things at the federal level that we've been working on in the meantime while we're still pursuing this
Hmm.
case. The first one, as you mentioned, is that the president issued the executive order in early April. It was
Yeah.
April 8th, I believe, on energy independence. So we, along with our coalition of other associations, business organizations, sent a letter to the Department of Justice asking that Washington's policies, both the Energy Code and House Bill 1589, be made a high priority by the Department of Justice
Mm.
because we think it certainly fits the definition that the executive order of policies at states that increase energy costs for consumers and put the nation's energy security at risk. So meets that definition. And then in Congress, there is a piece of legislation that would be a federal national ban the ban on, so it would ban banning of natural gas.
Okay.
This is the Energy Choice Act. Ours was the Energy Choice Initiative. This is the Energy Choice Act. It was introduced by a congressman from New York and has a number of co-sponsors, including Dan Newhouse from Washington. It was introduced in both the House and the Senate, and we're told is a high priority of the House Republican Conference back in D.C. So if that legislation passed, that also would supersede the state ban here. So we're working really hard at the national level to try and get that done while we're still pursuing protecting I-2066. So this fight isn't over. We're battling on a number of fronts to try and protect natural gas service for everybody in Washington State.
Love that, man. If not,
Yeah.
poor Jay Inslee, if Donald Trump came in and
Oh,
upended the
yes.
CCA and the gas ban and the EV mandates. But again, there is bipartisan opposition to some of these policies. I think
Absolutely.
it was Congresswoman Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez down in the 3rd who voted with Republicans on the EV issue. So, it's common sense stuff. And the cost driver here for people who are already like on razor thin margins with their family budget, I think is a big motivator for that. So, Greg, thanks for continuing to fight on these things. Update us on both fronts, okay? I want to know if you guys hear back anything meaningful from the Trump administration on some of this stuff.
Yes.
And then I guess we'll talk to you again in the fall when the state Supreme Court takes this one up. But I'm sure we'll chat before then, but we appreciate it.
Great to be with you. And yes, we'll keep you updated and your viewers. Appreciate it.
Once again, we got to rely on Donald Trump to bail us out of some absolute policy disaster. Can't even be the voters of the state who say, no, I want natural gas. And Democrats say, no, you really don't. We're going to sue you over that. And what's also crazy is like Jay Inslee, the former governor. He's the one who's pushing and leading this effort to overturn the initiative, right? And we're supposed to believe, and BIAW sounds very confident, I get it, they have to work with these individuals. We have to believe that Nick Brown, the Attorney General, who was the legal counsel for Jay Inslee while Jay Inslee was governor, who didn't support the initiative, we're supposed to believe that he's going to give it the best defense possible? Call me suspicious. But I don't know if that's the case. All right, that segment was brought to you in partnership with our friends at the Rental Housing Association of Washington. If you are a small to mid-sized landlord, become a member of RHA today. They can help you navigate this insane environment. And yes, speaking of natural gas, that is an issue that impacts landlords as well if you're going to have to pay to electrify the unit that you rent out. RHAWA.org, RHAWA.org.